So, I am here with a very quick video on what to look for and something to be on the lookout for when it comes to uranium glass, specifically uranium glass jewelry. Now, I own over a dozen pieces of uranium glass jewelry, necklaces, bracelets, pins, etc. And this was the first one I got. I was quite excited because it was only $12, which for a piece of uranium glass, especially a brooch, that's about, half of what you would normally spend if you were to specifically buy one online. And I first caught it because you can't see it too well on this camera. The blue kind of overtakes it, but sort of the edges, this is supposed to be a little flower right here, kind of nice. The sort of yellow section on the ends of the petals fluoresces a nice, almost classic, it's almost like a zinc sulfide radium dial kind of green. A little bit different than most uranium glass that I've seen, but I got very excited when I got this because, yeah, I got it for about half price of what you would normally expect to get a uranium pin for. Problem is, the only detector I had at the time, well, I had multiple, but none were capable of detecting alpha, and none were capable of detecting most beta. So I was not able to directly test this for uranium glass. For those that don't know, it's generally pretty tough on a standard Geiger counter or scintillation counter like this Radiocode 102. It's tough to pick up small amounts of uranium glass on them because they don't give off much gamma radiation. It's primarily in the form of alpha and beta radiation, and most meters just are not sensitive to that. If you wanted to get really fancy with it, you could get a alpha scintillator. There's quite a few models of those out there, or more commonly, just because it's a technology that's been around for significantly longer, or at least accessible for longer, you're going to want to get a pancake probe. Now, the thing about Geiger-Müller tubes is, the sensing element that is at the heart of a Geiger counter is a significant amount of them cannot pick up alpha radiation, and that's because they're made up of substances such as glass or metal. There are many models that are capable of it, but for the most part, especially a meter I used to have that broke, GMC 320, that's not able to pick it up simply because the material is too thick for the alpha rays to get through. This, on the other hand, is different. This is a very thin mica window, and because of the structure of the pancake probe, it is able to pick up alpha rays. I believe, what are they called? End window probes are good at it too, but that's not something I've directly looked into. So, let me put it down. I have here a uranium glass hat pin that I've shown in another video. Very nice, fluoresces quite well. Again, that doesn't pick up too well on this camera, mostly the blue. And this one, I will first show the Radiocode. So that's about background radiation. It's stabilizing a bit going down. But otherwise, yeah, this is predominantly oriented towards gamma and X-rays, and I believe some of the higher energy betas. So it's not able to pick this up. Turn that off, and turn the clicker onto the Ludlum with a pancake probe. This, on the other hand, and I apologize if you have any pets in the room, I really wish there was a classic click on this instead of a beep, but I understand it was meant to be heard, not so much for comfort. So when I put the probe on there, you start to pick some of that up, unlike the Radiocode, which was only picking up background radiation. So, because I bought this when I did not yet have the Ludlum, or any model whatsoever that was capable of detecting alpha, I was not able to definitively confirm that it had uranium glass. I was not able to definitively confirm that it had uranium glass quite yet. I was just going by the 395 nanometer UV light, but I figured it had to be uranium glass because it had the characteristic green glow. It appeared to be very vintage. The structure is similar, and materials are very similar to other pieces of uranium glass costume jewelry that I've since purchased. And if I didn't already mention it, that is a glass-like material there. This center stone is glass, but there's sort of this glassy quality that makes up the entirety of the petals of the flower coming out. So yeah, I figured it had to be uranium glass. So when I immediately got a Ludlum and put it on my first piece of uranium glass jewelry ever, I suppose this would be a better example. So, consistent readings from there. But here, nada. Just background radiation, some clicks every now and again. So yeah, this is a warning to all out there. Be wary, because I'd say pretty much 95% of the uranium glass jewelry that I find does turn out to be uranium glass. Sometimes it turns out to be, I believe it's manganese, one of those two. But for the most part, if it looks like vintage costume jewelry and it glows green, the characteristic uranium glass green, under a UV light, it's probably uranium glass. But as proven by this, that's not always the case. And don't get me wrong, it's a very nice piece of jewelry, but I'm not here for the jewelry. I'm here for the uranium. So this has just sort of been sitting out. And I'm not really sure what to do with it, because I paid $12 for it, which is probably, not to insult the designer, but probably because it's not uranium glass, about $11 more than it's worth. So this is mostly just a cautionary tale to those of you out there. If anybody here is interested in finding some more unusual pieces of uranium glass beyond the dishware, etc., and foraying out into, say, jewelry, it might be worth it to pick up an alpha-sensing radiation detector of some type. They can be quite expensive, since most Geiger counters and scintillation counters are oriented towards gamma, X-rays, and higher-end betas. But if you're going to be collecting this, especially if you're going to be selling some of these pieces like I am, most of my uranium glass jewelry collection soon, it's going to be worth getting something to actually confirm that you have what you think you have. Because otherwise, you could very well have a fluorescent piece like this. I don't know what that is under there. Maybe it's some sort of zinc sulfide solution, sort of like how they make glow toys. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just a slightly fluorescent piece of plastic, but it's not what I want. So I've heard quite a few different models out there of alpha detecting meters. I personally love my Ludlum Model 3 with 44.9 probe, but that is a bit more expensive than most people are generally going to want to pay. I got this for $350, which was a bit of a steal because they tend to go for $400 to $600 depending on where you're at. At least that's what it was for me in the United States. There are other pancake detectors out there. A very common one that I see used by uranium glass collectors online is, I believe it's the GMC 600, if I recall correctly. That is a kind of compact GMC model with a pancake probe as the primary, the only sensing element, to my knowledge. But as with a lot of GMC products, sorry GMC, take it with a grain of salt. I know that there's numerous alpha scintillators out there, as with most scintillators until recently, like, you know, the introduction of the radio code and the better Geiger. Until recently, scintillators have been quite expensive. The only alpha and also beta focused scintillator that I know offhand is called the Alpha Hound, and it's fairly new. It only came out in the last several months, but it appears to be very responsive. It can differentiate between the types of radiation, which is something that the Geiger-Müller tube can not do. It only counts the amount of radioactive disintegrations. It doesn't actually tell you what type of radiation is coming through it. But on that same note, it is, I believe, almost $400 around there. So for your average uranium glass collector, that might be a bit much. But if you are going to get into this, especially if you are going to get into smaller pieces and more unusual pieces that may have that may just not have much uranium at all and give off virtually no gamma rays, you're going to want something that picks up alpha. I've owned the GMC 320, and I thought it was all right for like Fiesta wear and radium dials. It's kind of the bare minimum. Before anything cheaper tends to be pretty terrible, and the GMC is nothing to write home about. But at the same time, it does work. However, for these small pieces, nothing. Back when I had it before it busted, it did not pick up any of my jewelry whatsoever, even the hottest pieces. According to the Ludlum. So, yeah. And I would like to say that it wasn't the 320 that broke, it was me that broke it. I was attempting to do a soldering job, and I just irreparably screwed up the circuit board. So, note to self, if you're going to tackle big projects with a soldering iron that you've never held a soldering iron before, start small, and don't use $120 Geiger counters for it. So, yeah. I think my next video is going to be a overview of my jewelry collection. I intend to sell off most of it fairly soon because I just don't need that much stuff. So I may as well put it all together into one pretty pile and show you it. But yeah, so again, there it is. You can see some of the green. Oh, there, that shows it fairly well. The green fluorescence of the petals. Maybe it's zinc sulfide like they put in glow toys, maybe it's just some random plastic that happens to show up fairly well under UV light. I don't know, but it is not radioactive, unfortunately. Very nice, but it's probably just, going to sit around until I have an excuse to give it away to somebody. Not really my girlfriend's style, so it's not going to her. Not that she would, well, she'd actually probably be thankful for this. Last thing she needs is a piece of radioactive jewelry in her life. But, yeah. Thank you for sitting through almost 13 minutes of this horse crap, and I will get back to you. Bye-bye.